Hey guys, welcome to Secret Sessions. I'm Jordan Gold, and we're here with Andrew Mann. Andrew, how are you doing?
Sir, I'm great. If I don't shoot this rubber band in my eye, I'll be very, very pleased.
Yeah, be very careful with that. That's you've got a whole thing going on over there.
Mm.
Today we're going to do some rubber band magic. We're going to be talking about Crazy Man's handcuffs, as you probably know it. It's a trick by a couple other names as well, so we're going to go over all of that. It is one of the most versatile, most useful, most profitable tricks that I know of, and I know a lot of other magicians think so too. So we're gonna get into it. If you were watched the Magic Club episode we did today, that's episode number 2. We talked about Jamie Grant's book, The Approach. And he talks a lot about this trick in this book as well, because he uses it all the time for walk around. So first off, I have this secret document here. This is from Chris Kenner.
The Chris Kenner? I mean, I know about the book, Out of Control, but this I've never seen before. I've never seen this until you held that up in the episode.
Oh, fantastic. I had never seen this either. I didn't know it existed until I was at Disneyland with Chris Kenner. And I don't think it was the day you were there. You first introduced me to Disneyland with Chris. And then we were there a day later. And I'm pretty sure we invited you. You just were busy. But he mentioned that this existed. He put this book out about rubber bands, this little booklet. He used to sell it as lectures, and I was kind of floored and immediately went to go find it online. Funny little story about this is that there was a magician in Santa Barbara, Ron Bell, who had a copy, and he messaged me and said, "Hey, I have a copy of this. I honestly have no idea what it's worth. I paid whatever it was, back in the 80s for it. Bought it from Chris. So make me an offer." And we'll go from there. So I sent him a video of Chris saying, "Ron, this is Chris Kenner. The book's worth about $1, so I wouldn't pay a cent more for it." And and Ron didn't really know how to respond. He's like, okay. And then I sent him another video because we're at Disneyland while I'm texting, right. While I'm emailing, and I sent him another. It's hey, Ron, this is Chris again. Here's the deal. You send Jordan the book, and I'll give you two tickets to come see David Copperfield, and that's the deal. And so, Ron was like overjoyed. He was, expecting a couple bucks, I think, from this, not two, VIP tickets to see David Copperfield. So it was then on me to set it all up, and I arranged it, and Ron saw the show, and I got the book, and everyone's happy. So I've got this, and you get to benefit from all of that because I'm about to open it up. Ooh. And this is part of the Secret Sessions. Ooh. It's pretty nice. It actually covers 3 tricks inside here. See, look at that. The world's greatest rubber band magic. This is like story time with Jordan and Andrew. It covers the boomerang rubber band, which we're not going to do today because it's very difficult to shoot that on camera, and it's really challenging.
That thing is so knacky. That is so hard.
I was fortunate enough that I learned it when I was a kid. I think Frank Olivier showed it to me when I was 13 years old.
He was like the Batman to your Robin. You know that.
He really is, yeah. He taught me that trick. It was one of the first rubber band tricks I learned. It's a miracle. If you want to learn it, pick up this book. See if you can find it. It's in there. It's in depth.
The guys there's a class of guys like Frank Olivier, Steve Valentine, and David Williamson I'm sure they practice, but it's invisible how much they practice. But they're so amazing at what they do. They pick up stuff and they look amazing, and you're like, you don't seem like the kind of guy that's practicing all the time, but somehow I like Chad Long too.
Oh yeah, Chad's amazing also. Yeah, and they're just like magic factories, They're just unbelievable, the kind of stuff that they put out. So in here, it mentions that this was first printed in Tarbell 7. What? A trick that's modern that actually was printed in Tarbell? No way.
Proof. We need proof.
If only we had a copy of Tarbell lying
Well, I notice on your
around.
shelf it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it skips over to 8.
Skips
So
over,
yes,
skips over.
there.
So there's volume 7 where it's at. And I happen to have it marked right here. So it is, in fact, in Tarbell, of course. Every trick, if you don't already know this, every trick in Magic, including the ones that haven't been published yet, have already been published. They're all in Tarbell.
Tarbell's like a Harry Potter book, and that you think you've read it, and then somebody will be like, "Oh no, chapter 14." Like, no, I'm pretty sure that I looked at. No, what? No, this just it just like the ink appears, whatever, and the book and the trick is automatically there.
Oh yeah, it's there. Yeah, in everyone's copy.
iPhone magic? How the hell did iPhone magic get in there?
we,
Oh, it's with a wireless radio set of the future.
we should really put together a fake Tarbell page for Magic Club members that you can slip into Tarbell 7 right in the back. That's just iPhone Magic printed by Tarbell. So,
the Tesla wireless futuristic radio set. That's
so this is in here. It's published as the Uncanny Penetrating Rubber Bands. Also, quick note about Tarbell. If you this is probably speaking to the choir, but if you didn't already know, you can't just buy book 1 and 2 of Tarbell and think that you're going to save up and get 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's what I thought, and I for a while had volume 1 and 2. You need book 7 because book 7 has the all-important index, which has the list of all of the tricks in the back. And then once you have this, you're going to need all the other books because everything's scattered throughout. So get a whole set and then throw away all the other Magic books because it's really all you need. So it's in here, and this is the original handling of it. It's been changed over the years and updated, and people have added a lot to it, including myself a little bit. I've thought about this trick for a long time, and it's actually one of the last rubber band tricks that I updated and really spent a lot of time thinking about because I learned it from Dan Harlan, his set of DVDs as
great set of DVDs.
It's also on classic renditions by Michael Amar. I think Michael is the one to call it Crazy Man's Handcuffs as part of his presentation, which was sort of trapped in here like a pair of Crazy Man's handcuffs.
Above the microphone.
That was a terrible Michael Amar impression as well. But I do a lot of rubber bands, and I sort of realized, what do I have to add to this trick? So I really focused in on being present about what's different about it. So first, we'll show it to you. Here it is. You can see it can't go through the thumb or through the center or through the fingers, but right in the middle, it just falls apart.
Nice.
And that's the trick. You do it a couple times. There's a little bit more to it as well. You can do another version of it where it's kind of hard to show on camera, but you can see right there it hasn't gone through yet. Instead of one going through the other, if you do it slow enough, one will actually melt, and then it just turns from 2 to 1. And there it is. And so the longer routine, you just talk to people in between the phases and stuff like that. And
where did that move come from?
The melting back into itself. I learned that from Dan Harlan's DVDs. So we're going to have to reach out to Dan and figure out where exactly that came from. That part, I don't believe, is in Tarbell. Tarbell was just the separation. So the melting back together, that's a different thing. And then I've started this trick with 1 rubber band and then split it into 2 rubber bands.
Oh, wow.
And or at the end, once it becomes 1, you can also do that. And that's just a matter of taking the 2 rubber bands, putting them together, and then stretching them. It's sort of similar to the Harry Lorraine Broken and Restored subtlety, where it's just 2 stretched rubber bands that look like 1. There really isn't so much of a handling on that other than you just you curl the fingers at the ends to sort of keep them in line with each other. And you can sort of stretch that and just display it as a band. If you give a rubber band to somebody, have them inspect it, bring it back, and as you're talking, you just I'll have this set up here, just on my hand, curled into a fist. And so this is just casually down here. You're talking. You can bring this back, and as you bring the rubber bands forward, you just line them up. I'll do that so you can kind of see from behind. This is down here. You've reached in your pocket, grab this rubber band. The 2 line up. they go together, and immediately you just stretch them, and they just fall together. It's not a big deal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not like a move. You just kind of do it, and then you pinch one end, and then you just let go, and it snaps. And there's versions. I think Dan had a version where it ended up one on each finger, which
Well,
is
that's what I
is
just
kind of
did.
nice.
Was
But
that? Yeah.
oh yeah, you can let go of one band and then.
I like the one on each finger one actually because that's it.
So me person, that's all. These are great, and it's totally up to you guys. Personally, my favorite is I have somebody hold their hand out, and I like to do this and snap it because I kind of like the ambiguity of exactly what it is. It's
Mm-hmm.
not one into two. It's kind of one separating, and then I'll just rub my fingers and let one fall, and then the other fall into their open hand. That's sort of the way I've been doing it lately, but it's nice to have all these different things in your pocket, and you can sort of, depending on the situation, play around.
Mm-hmm.
If you have one person on either side of you, maybe you want to split the band into two and then hand these two out and bring them back together. It's totally up to you. The benefit of the separation is now you're here and you can get straight into the trick. So we'll talk in a minute about the separation, the link, the actual how this works, because that is going to go into depth. In case you already know that part, the thing that because that I'm not adding to that. I'm going to show you the versions that are already out there. The thing that I've added to this really is there's a lot of guys who I see do this move a lot, this sort of overproving. This
Mm-hmm.
action happens a lot, and that's, I think, unnecessary. And I think it's because people aren't thinking about the choreography of this. They're just kind of talking and naturally doing this. And I've seen performances where it just feels like this is going on
Yeah,
forever.
it's way overdone.
And so for me, I love the rule of three. The
Mm-hmm.
rule of three works in everything. If it when in doubt, rule of three. I like to pull it back against my thumb. I pull it against itself, and that's when I do the move that we'll talk about in a second. Now it's done, and you come forward on the forefinger. So it's this back, side, forward, and then you can unlink. Now, the unlink is also a really important bit because right now you're sort of the perspective
Mm-hmm.
of the audience. Where is that going to happen from? I've thought about this a lot too because for me, from my perspective, it looks pretty good. I'm looking through my fingers right there, and as I'm performing it, I really get this awesome view of, yeah, it's going through. That looks great. But from your audience, they're seeing the back of your hand and the back of
Mm-hmm.
your hand. So even if your fingers are up, your fingers kind of block it from here. You can't see the two bands. And then if I try and angle that around, it's kind of hard to see maybe from there, but now your arm's kind of up. This is the solution. This is a very small fix, but it makes a huge difference. And it goes from a couple people in front of you getting good sight lines to this to being able to have 180 degrees
Mm-hmm.
of a viewing angle on this, and actually more than that because it looks great from my angle too. So if you do this 360, you'll be able to actually get a really beautiful separation. And I was at an event performing for, it was a Dan and Dave event. They did cardistry for the sound video thing. It was a really cool event, and I was doing magic for five people, and I looked up, and all of a sudden those five people had turned into 35 people surrounding me because that sometimes happens when you're doing
Mm-hmm.
magic. You get these big crowds, and it's good to be able to have stuff that you can take from down here and sort of transition it into a bigger view. And I think for me as a walk around professional, I filter all of my magic through that lens of,
Mm-hmm.
can I do this up close, but can I also bring this up and make it a little
I
bit
think
more
that's super
staged?
helpful. You know, because I find myself a lot of times at parties and situations like that where, I think I'm gonna sit in a couch or whatever doing a magic trick or something. Next thing everybody wants to see, and it's like, okay, now I got to take this thing and I got to make it work up here. But if it works up here, you have material you can use in platform and stage.
That's exactly right. So for the working up here, the big difference is
All
once
right, show us.
once you
Start it from the beginning. Let's show it because, let's assume we know nothing. I'm gonna be
no,
Mr.
no.
Butterfingers here. Okay, I'm
So
walking it in. All right, I'm here, and I need to overprove it a billion times. Got it.
So now all you do is very slowly, because you don't want people to think you're doing the move here, is just bring your hands up towards yourself and rotate so that your palms are facing out.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up with this sort of X that's at an angle.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really, this
Well, when
isn't
did we do the unlock though?
the unlock's in the middle. We're going to talk about the unlock in
Okay.
just a second. So this is the, from the separation you're going to do from here,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes across and it comes down.
Let's-
So that's the basic thing. And I'll talk about the unlock now, and then we'll get back into sort of this. But this is, if you don't want to sit through the unlock because you already know, this is the big thing. Go from here to here, and then you can see that in slow motion
And you did the unlock just then.
just then.
That's beautiful.
So the unlock is this. You're going to have the rubber bands around your index finger and your thumb.
Mm-hmm.
With your middle finger, and I use my right hand, I'm right-handed. You want to hold the top rubber band down on your fingernail, right about there. And as you're pulling the rubber bands against each other, you're going to take your index finger out of that loop, and it's being held there by your middle finger. You're going to come up across, touch your index finger to your thumb, and then open back up and let go with the middle finger, and it's going to separate. All of that happens in the action of you coming from the stretched position back to the open position. And so there's a brief moment where right in between you're separated as you're coming back together. Ideally, it's not just the separation because you can do that, it'll separate. It's that in combination with the rhythm of coming out and back. And so you want to you don't want to do this too quickly because it'll fly off like it just did for me. It's really about getting a nice rhythm where it slowly comes out and then goes back together. And what you just saw is it's not that slowed down from real time. You can really do it that slowly, and you can see it separates. So it is together now. I am doing the unlink, and that slowly, it's already been done. So you can, if you want, you can actually perform this slowly, but you can speed it up just a little bit. And I would start practicing it super slow, of stretching just about as far as the bands want to go. You don't want to get to their breaking point. You can feel when it's a little too far, but you want to really stress those rubber bands out as to like 3/4 of the way that they will stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Really get that in there because that gives the natural. It'll naturally bring your fingers together, right? If you come here, look how far apart the fingers are. But if you come farther, it'll just sort of naturally bring the fingers closer. So
Mm-hmm.
it also extends. This is a really nice point of misdirection because it creates this visual X. People are drawn away from your fingers towards the center. So the farther your fingers are away from that X, the less they're going to see movement. If you
Mm-hmm.
do the move here, they're going to see this. If
That's
you
a
do
very
it
good point. 'Cause
here,
I always did it sort of like I did it sort of to me, like that. And I always love doing this sort of the cross sort of thing and sort of the slow pull through. But it's interesting because like looking at how somebody who does it different than what I'm used to, and I'm like, oh wow, that looks great because I'm waiting for it at the moment that I do it, but you did it at a different moment, and it's I think super smooth.
yeah. And also,
Except the part where you hit the microphone, that
you said
wouldn't
the
do
far,
that.
sorry about that, everybody.
Wouldn't do that.
If you do it towards yourself, this is still in
That's
their
right in their eye line. Yeah.
their eye line, right? If you do it here, it's now they have to be looking at the right hand because there's two hands to look at, but they're also mimicking each other. And the other thing is that you want to mimic the closing of your fingers on your right hand
Mm-hmm.
with your left hand. If you don't do that, you end up with
Good
one
point.
rubber band closed and one rubber band open. So you want to kind of be able to do that as you close and open. So we'll do that again. I'll show you the difference between the two. This is if you move only one hand, and I'll do that one more time. You can see it's not
Yeah, no, it's a very good
symmetrical.
point.
And if you close both hands, so you actually want to close both fingers and open both fingers, and that will create this consistency, which hides the method in there, which is really nice. And these are all the tiny little minutia details of this, but it's what sells that link to the point that you will feel confident enough that you don't have to overprove by doing
Right.
this a bunch, and you can really focus on there's one, there's two, and there's three. So one more time up close, you can see back, and we're separated. So that's the unlinking. That's the move, the actual move.
You know, part of what makes this trick so solid is that there are two things that happen. There are two things that isolate the move from what happens. I think that's the thing to think through. There's a lot of rubber band magic out there, but some of it looks really kind of knacky and sort of like when it happens, you're not sure what happens. But with this, the fact that you're genuinely linked, your separation happens when you're far apart, and then you go back in and it doesn't look like anything has happened yet is great. So you've got that, and then if you do that kind of that still that the proving kind of thing where they're connected, you're two steps away from when the misdirection already happened, and then when you do that separation, you're at a beautiful sort of point, which I think that's why it's one of those powerful effects in close-up
It,
magic.
structurally, it is really fantastic, and I think that this trick is underappreciated in that the props are so simple.
Mm-hmm.
You can find the rubber bands anywhere. You can carry them with you. It's really easy. There's no setup. It's totally impromptu. And I think because of those reasons, a lot of people overlook the details and really working on this trick. And they get to the point where they can do the separation. They feel like that's good enough
Yeah.
and they perform it that way. And I think it's kind of a shame to see people doing this trick, but not putting in the time to make it beautiful and to really focus on each moment. And that includes people just rushing through it because, once it's separated, there is that sort of magician's guilt that, oh, ooh, I don't want to hold it too long because people will notice. But, you know, if you're using thin bands and they're the same color,
You
people are
can't
not,
tell. You
they
cannot
can't
tell.
tell. I mean, unless they're right in front of their eyes, even then, maybe they can see it. But you also have to realize that most people don't have perfect vision anyway. So
Well,
you
you don't know
can
what to
get
look
away
for.
with this. But my challenge to you guys would be I know you can perform this. Everyone can perform this. Put some rubber bands in your pocket. Hold that for as long as possible. Really, I would say get to this point where you're unlinked and then tell a story or have a conversation or do something to distract somebody to see how long you can hold this position and then try to get busted. Try to have somebody go, oh, wait, they're unlinked, and just see how long it takes before somebody takes a look and can visually see that they're on the other side, because I think that you'll be surprised how long you can get away with this. Because if you really take your time with showing that sort of proving that it can't go through, you really only have to do those three. And then you can hold this here. You can kind of look around. You can talk. You can make a point. You can really sell this moment. It doesn't have to be and they come apart. If you angle your hand down so that right now all four bands are touching each other. If you bring two of them away from each other so that only two of the bands are touching, it actually looks like it goes through one band at a time.
Yeah.
And you can really sell that as it's happening. And that the other thing that I add to this is that I do this almost painfully slowly for people. Sometimes it really is this slow because their eyes will start to cross as these bands are coming apart. They can't tell if it's an illusion or if it's really happening, and it's super magical. This is not based on theory. This is actual reactions that I get from people freaking out. This can be a real miracle that you do for people. So really work on that.
Well, it's you always get that powerful, and that's why you can kind of repeat it because the move is invisible, and like you get that bleep kind of reaction. You know, you get that because the person who's paying super attention, watching closely, who doesn't know that the move happened, you know, moments ago, you know, and that's just it's like a color change. You know, it's one of those powerful things that we sometimes just underestimate how much impact they have.
Yeah. So fully commit to that. And then, so the first link you can do through your hand, one, two, and three. And then you come up and you can get this nice separation. And there's a couple ways you can do this. You can kind of pop it and make these sort of jolty fast movements with your hand. They make it kind of like pop, pop. It comes through. That looks super magical, and I enjoy doing that. The other is you can just slowly, continuously move, and it's ambiguous to exactly as to when that goes through.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two you can kind of play with. Is one, it just melts through all the way, and I kind of like to put my finger here and just keep one hand still, and the other hand rotates as it comes down. And the other is two, you can see it's there, and it sort of pops through, and then it pops again. And those are up to you as to performance wise what you want to do. But it's when you get surrounded by people and you have your hands up here and you get a chance to look around and everyone's watching you. This is a really fun trick to do all of a sudden instead of you watching it from the other angle and sort of looking at it like this. That's less good. So that's the first phase of it. The second phase is the exact same thing, except I do this between two different people. I'll have one person hold out their finger and hold on. I'll have a second person hold out their finger and hold on. And then I stretch this
I
between
got it.
two separate people. You got it right there. Perfect. So then I'll come across like that. I'll put mine behind theirs. And that way you I mean, you've taken this from your hands, not to one person's hands, but to two people's hands. And now the two people are connected as well. So this creates a beautiful frame of person here, person here. And the language that I use for this is as I push forward through the band. So let's say it's the best way to do this without people here. There we go. So pretend this is one. As I push forward through their band, I say, you can see I can go towards you, right? And that really sells the idea that, yeah, I am on this side towards you, but I can't come towards me. And that's the moment that it's just sort of casually, yeah. I don't make a big move of, oh, they haven't separated. I just say, I can go towards you, and you can push against their band with your hand like that. So they feel that resistance. I can't come towards me, so they feel that resistance, and you come back to the center. But in the middle, sometimes it'll go through. And you can change the wording on that. Whatever, however you want the revelation moment to be, make it fit you. But it's nice to go towards them, to come back towards you, because now instead of it being a two-dimensional sort of plane separation, it's really 3D. It's in their space, it's away from them, and then slowly it separates. And again, as I'm separating, I do this extremely slowly. So come towards me like this. I separate one band at a time. I don't push. This is another thing that I see some people do. They push the two bands once they've been unlinked against each other. And that creates this, it doesn't make any sense to have that. So you want them to be touching, but enough tension so that the bands are still straight on all sides. You don't want this sort of concavity of them pushing in against each other. But once you get here, you can just back and forth rub one at a time, and they will feel, or at least they will believe that they feel the band coming one through the other one, and it's extremely good magic.
Excellent. What rubber bands do you recommend?
Right now, I've got two recommendations. My personal favorite that I've been using for years are Brights bands, Brites, and you can get those at Office Depot. It comes in a multi-pack. Those are they come with several different options. They come with blue ones that are 16s. They come with orange 18s. They come with yellow 19s, and then they come with some thicker bands. I like those honestly just as regular rubber bands too, because there's a couple extra thick ones in there that I don't use for magic, but I use for other things. And then there's also some a green and a purple one, which are thicker rubber bands than these, but are really nice if you want to cut some rubber bands up. I have a trick out with Art of Magic called the Halo Change that uses the thicker rubber bands because you actually need to make a gimmick with those. And they stretch really nice. They're super bright and they're really great. And the ones that I have right here are the Joe Rhineflesh professional rubber bands, which those are 19s. And these, especially for this trick, these are handled like a dream. I highly recommend them. They stretch a lot more than almost any other rubber band of their size, and they're super bright. I mean, you can just see how visual that is, even on camera, even with this crazy background with all these books. These come in really sort of neon colors. And I like the rainbow pack because part of what I'll do is, if I'm wearing a tie, like an orange tie or whatever, I'll match the rubber bands to a piece of my clothing or something like that. And so I'll start off very serious and I say, if you look at these rubber bands very closely, you'll notice that they perfectly match my tie or my whatever. And that's sort of a nice playing with expectations. That's on purpose. It's professional. Whatever you want to do. I've actually had people point out, like if I have orange sleeves and orange rubber bands, that my rubber bands match my clothes, and it's kind of cool.
Which tells you how Jordan dresses.
Sorry, what's happening right now?
I don't know. You tell me.
Okay, sorry. There's like some weird audio coming from somewhere, so I was just freaking out. Ignore all of that. Uh, super weird. I don't know what just
I'm gonna
happened.
cut it out. Don't worry.
Okay. So this trick, you can be ready to go with this trick at any time. It's always on you. You can always have rubber bands. Check out the Rhineflesh ones. They're great. Check out the Brights. They're great too. Honestly, you can use any rubber bands for this. I've been in situations where I say, hey, someone says, hey, can you do a magic trick? And I've had rubber bands in my pocket. And I say, can you find me some rubber bands? And I make them go ask at a cashier or behind the bar or wherever we are. They can find rubber bands. They're almost always there. And it's better to do this with borrowed rubber bands if you can, because the fancy rubber bands are really good if you have to stretch them really far and hide things. And there's tricks that require better quality rubber bands so you're not breaking them. This isn't one of those tricks. This is a trick that really any rubber band works. I shouldn't have to say this, but you should use two of the same color. If you use two opposite colors, it's going to be kind of obvious when it goes through. Here I have there's a beige one and an orange one. I mean, right now you can tell the difference between that and that. That's a lot more obvious. Now it's still obscured. You can still do the trick, but you have to move it faster, and it's not as clean. It's not as good. So get two matching rubber bands. Same thing goes for the thickness. If you have a thick one and a kind of a thin one, it's not ideal. Two identical rubber bands is what you want for this. And yeah, I think that's all. It's all about rubber bands.
Sweet, sir. I think on another session we'll show some of our other stuff we played with, like the finger hopping rubber band and our little add-ons of doing like the vanish and stuff, and we can get into some other stuff because you're a guy that you could probably do an hour with rubber band magic.
We could probably do our own podcast that's just rubber bands every week.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun because I like it because it's a very close in trick, and it can be a bigger trick. You can have people hold on to it and they can feel like they're part of it. It's got a lot just great elements for close-up magic, and it's super, super portable. And I when I know I'm going to go somewhere and do magic, I always try to remember to bring rubber bands, and then sometimes I forget, and I'm like, oh man, if I had rubber bands, I could do this, kind of cool bit. But I love your opening stretch and the split. I love that, and I love your handling on this. It's going to change the way that I do it.
Yeah, I think pound for pound, rubber band magic is the most powerful magic that you can do, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing that I want to just add is for, this is a trick anyone can do. But for those pros out there who want to know how to get into it, doing walk around, I see a lot of guys wearing the rubber bands on the wrist. I'm not a huge fan of that because I wear suits, and when I'm wearing a suit, I don't understand why you would have a rubber band on your wrist. And also approaching a group of people when they don't know who you are and trying to get into it. If you're holding a rubber band, it's a little goofy. It's kind of like, wait, who's this guy? So my fix for that, and this comes from doing a lot of events and finally figuring out, is I will put the rubber bands around a deck of cards.
Yeah.
And then I can approach with the deck of cards in my hand and then say, oh, hi, by the way, I'm a magician. Or I can pull them out at some point after approaching the group of people. Say, would you guys like to see a trick? And yeah. Or, hey, I'm going to show you something cool. And then you just take the rubber bands off the cards and you put the cards away. And it's actually kind of great because people are excited about seeing a card trick. And then you're all of a sudden you're doing a rubber band trick. And now you've created something sort of mysterious. You've already subverted their expectations for everything that's going to happen, rather than putting them in a position of, hey, I've got these rubber bands. And now they have to sort of figure out, oh, he's going to do rubber band magic. I don't understand what this is. And I've done that. And then people afterwards kind of go, oh, well, were you going to do a card trick, or can you, then it sort of has them asking you for more, which is always something that's ideal in my situation and probably for all of you. So that's the last tip on this. And for any rubber band tricks is I love this idea of having them around the box. And I have more thoughts on that later for other tricks too, but try it out.
I made a while back, I made my trigger clip, which was for holding a deck of cards, a Sharpie, and rubber bands, because I was trying to figure out keep it all in one sort of location. Do that, so it's, between a deck of cards and rubber bands, you can go for days. Sir, thank you very much. You've given me something to play with and practice. If there's something out there you would like to learn, just send it to magicclub@itricks.com. And we're going to be bringing in some of our friends. Some of the best guys in magic are going to have their own take on stuff, their own presentations, and we look forward to hearing from you and sharing you more secret sessions.